Ngozi Okafor learned to make herself invisible the day she became Kang Ji-hoon's wife. Sold by her gambling-addicted father to pay debts to Seoul's most dangerous mafia king, she spent 6 months as a ghost in his Gangnam mansion, ignored and unseen by the man who bought her. Ji-hoon, the Reaper of Seoul, perfected the art of cold indifference after his first wife died in childbirth, leaving him with a 5-year-old daughter he blamed for her death. He rejected Min Seo for 5 years, unable to look at her without seeing the woman he lost. And he treated Ngozi like property, barely acknowledging her existence. Everything changed the night Min Seo nearly died. While Ji-hoon ignored 17 desperate calls from his wife, Ngozi used her nursing skills to save his daughter from sepsis, performing emergency procedures alone in a mansion where the guards wouldn't let her leave without permission. When Ji-hoon finally came home to find Ngozi covered in blood, cradling his unconscious child, something cracked in his carefully constructed armor. For the first time in 6 months, he actually saw her. For the first time in 5 years, he held his daughter. And for the first time in his life, the monster everyone feared felt genuinely afraid of losing something that mattered. Now Ji-hoon is trying to be the father Min Seo desperately needs and the husband Ngozi never expected. But in his violent world, love is a weapon enemies use against you. When rivals discover his newfound weakness, they target his family with brutal efficiency. Ngozi and Min Seo are kidnapped, his own mother is revealed as the traitor, and Ji-hoon must choose between the empire he built on blood and the family that's teaching him to be human. Can a man who spent his life being a monster learn to love before his darkness destroys everyone he's trying to protect? Ngozi Okafor learned to make herself invisible on the day she became Kang Ji-hoon's wife. It wasn't difficult. He'd perfected the art of looking through her as if she were glass, empty air, nothing at all. The Kang family mansion sat like a fortress on the hills of Gangnam, all steel gates and security cameras and men with guns who called her madam, but never met her eyes. 6 months she'd lived here. 6 months since her father had sold her to pay off his gambling debts to the most dangerous man in Seoul. 6 months of sleeping alone in a bedroom bigger than her entire childhood home in Lagos, while her husband treated her like a ghost that haunted his halls. She'd tried everything those first weeks. Cooking Nigerian food he never tasted, learning Korean phrases he never acknowledged, wearing the expensive dresses his assistant left in her closet, hoping he might look at her just once with something other than cold dismissal. But Kang Ji-hoon had mastered indifference like other men mastered violence. And in his world, indifference was its own kind of cruelty. The only person who saw her was Min Seo. The little girl was 5 years old, with her father's sharp features softened by childhood, and her dead mother's gentle eyes. Ngozi had learned the story in whispers from the household staff. Ji-hoon's first wife had died in childbirth, bleeding out while delivering the daughter he'd never wanted. He blamed the child for taking the only woman he'd ever loved. So Min Seo lived in the east wing of the mansion, cared for by a rotation of nannies who quit within months, desperate for her father's attention and receiving only his absence. Ngozi had found her 3 weeks after the wedding, hiding in the kitchen at midnight, stealing bread because she was too scared to ask for food. "You must be hungry," Ngozi had said softly in English, crouching down to the girl's level. "Let me make you something proper." Min Seo had stared at her with huge, wounded eyes. "Who are you?" I'm your father's wife. Are you my new mommy?" The question had cracked something in Ngozi's chest. "Would you like me to be?" Min Seo had nodded, tears spilling down her small face, and Ngozi had pulled her close. This broken child she barely knew, and promised herself that at least one person in this cold mansion would know what love felt like. Now, 6 months later, Min Seo was the only reason Ngozi hadn't run. The little girl would sneak into her room at night, curl up in her bed, whisper stories about her day in halting English mixed with Korean. Ngozi taught her to braid hair, to make akara and jollof rice, to laugh without fear. She became the mother Min Seo had never had, and the daughter Ngozi had always wanted. Ji-hoon never noticed. Or if he did, he never cared enough to stop it. Tonight, he was 3 days gone on business no one would explain. Ngozi had stopped calling after the first day. He never answered, never called back. His phone went straight to voicemail, a digital wall as impenetrable as his heart. She was reading to Min Seo in the library when the fever started. "Ngozi emo," Min Seo whispered, using the Korean word for aunt because mommy was still too dangerous. "I don't feel good." Ngozi pressed her hand to the child's forehead and felt her blood run cold. Min Seo was burning up, her skin like fire beneath her pajamas. "How long have you felt sick, baby?" "Since morning. But Daddy doesn't like when I complain." Of course he didn't. Ngozi scooped Minseo into her arms, alarmed by how light she was, how her little body trembled with chills despite the heat radiating from her skin. "We're getting you to bed. Right now." In Minseo's room, Ngozi pulled out her phone to call Jihoon. Voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. Again. Again. The phone rang endlessly into the void of his indifference. Minseo's temperature was 104 degrees and climbing. Ngozi stripped her down, applied cold compresses, tried to get her to drink water. The child was delirious, crying for her mother, the one who'd died bringing her into this world. "Please," Ngozi whispered into the phone on her 7th attempt. "Please, your daughter is sick. She needs you. Please call me back." Silence. By midnight, Minseo was seizing. Ngozi's nursing training kicked in with brutal clarity. She rolled the child onto her side, protected her head, timed the convulsion. 45 seconds. Too long. The fever had spiked to 105.8. Febrile seizure. Possibly sepsis. Minseo needed a hospital. Now. But the guards wouldn't let her leave without Jihoon's permission. His rules. His fortress. His daughter dying because he couldn't be bothered to answer his goddamn phone. Ngozi tried calling again. Voicemail. She wanted to scream. Instead, she did the only thing she could. She became the nurse she'd been trained to be. The mansion had a medical supply room. Jihoon's paranoia extended to preparing for emergencies, even if he wouldn't show up for them. Ngozi found IV equipment, antibiotics, fever reducers. Her hands shook as she inserted the IV line into Minseo's tiny arm. She'd done this hundreds of times in Lagos General Hospital, but never on a child she loved, never with this much terror clawing at her throat. "Stay with me, baby," she whispered in Igbo, then Korean, then English, as if enough languages might anchor Minseo to life. "Stay with me. Your daddy's coming. He's coming." But he wasn't coming. The phone rang and rang into nothing. The antibiotics took 30 minutes to work, the longest 30 minutes of Ngozi's life. She held Minseo's burning body against her chest, sang her grandmother's lullabies, prayed to every god she knew and some she didn't. At 2:17 a.m., Minseo's fever broke. At 2:23 a.m., the front door slammed open. Ngozi heard his voice before she saw him. Sharp, brutal, demanding answers from the guards who'd failed to inform him his house was in crisis. She heard his footsteps on the stairs, heavy and fast. And then Kang Ji-hoon was standing in the doorway of his daughter's bedroom. And for the first time in 6 months, he was actually looking at Ngozi. She was covered in blood from where the IV had leaked. Minseo was unconscious in her arms, pale and fragile and barely breathing. Medical supplies littered the floor. And Ngozi was crying, tears streaming down her face, her body shaking with the aftermath of terror. Jihoon's expression was unreadable. His dark eyes swept the room, taking in the evidence of the night's battle, landing finally on his daughter's small face. "What happened?" His voice was deadly quiet. "She had a febrile seizure. Temperature hit 105.8. I think it's sepsis. She needs a hospital." Ngozi's voice cracked. "I called you 17 times. Something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe. Or anger. She couldn't tell. "The guards wouldn't let me leave," she continued, fury building beneath her exhaustion. "Your rules. Your fortress. Your daughter almost died because you couldn't be bothered to answer your phone. I was in a meeting. Your daughter was dying." The words hung between them, sharp and true and damning. Jihoon's jaw clenched. He stepped forward, and for a moment Ngozi thought he might hit her. Instead, he reached down and carefully, so carefully, lifted Minseo from her arms. The gentleness of it shocked her. This man who'd treated his daughter like a ghost for 5 years, holding her now like she was made of glass and light and something infinitely precious. Minseo stirred against his chest, her small hand clutching his designer shirt. "Appa?" she whispered. "Daddy." Jihoon's face did something complicated. Pain and longing and a grief so profound Ngozi felt it in her bones. "I'm here," he said, his voice breaking on the words. "I'm here." He looked at Ngozi then, really looked at her, and she saw past the cold mask to the man underneath. The one who'd loved and lost and locked himself away rather than risk that pain again. "You saved her." It wasn't a question. "She's my daughter too." The words came out before Ngozi could stop them, claiming the child he'd rejected, daring him to challenge her. He didn't. Instead he said, "The hospital. Now." Ngozi stood on shaking legs. following him down the stairs and into the car. The driver took off before she'd even fastened her seatbelt. Ji-hoon sat in the back, Min-seo cradled against his chest, one hand tangled in her hair as if afraid she might disappear. "Why didn't you wake me up earlier?" he asked suddenly. "When she first got sick?" Ngozi stared at him. "You've been gone for 3 days. You don't answer your phone. You don't come home. You don't—" She stopped, the truth too brutal to speak. "You don't care about her." But he heard it anyway. "I care," he said, and the rawness in his voice surprised her. "I care too much. That's the problem." "Then why?" "Because she killed my wife." The words were flat, final. "She took the only person I ever loved, and I—" He stopped, his hand tightening protectively around Min-seo's small body. "I couldn't look at her without seeing what I lost." Ngozi felt tears burning again. "She didn't kill anyone. She's a child. Your child. And she's been dying for your love every single day of her life." "I know." His voice was barely a whisper. "God, I know." At the hospital, doctors confirmed what Ngozi had suspected. Bacterial sepsis. Caught early enough to treat, Min-seo would live. But without Ngozi's intervention, without the IV antibiotics, without someone who loved her enough to fight, she would have died, the doctor said simply. Ji-hoon stood at his daughter's bedside while she slept, machines beeping softly around them. Ngozi watched him from the doorway, this dangerous man brought to his knees by a 5-year-old girl and his own capacity for regret. "Thank you," he said without turning around, "for saving her, for seeing her when I couldn't." "She deserves to be seen." "I know." He finally turned to face her. "And so do you." Ngozi's breath caught. It was the first time he'd acknowledged her existence beyond the transactional reality of their arranged marriage. "I can't promise I'll be good at this," he continued. "At being a father. At being a—" He stopped, unable to say husband. "But I'll try. For her. And for yourself?" His dark eyes met hers, and she saw the damage there. The walls he'd built. The grief he wore like armor. "I don't know if there's anything left of me worth saving." "Then I guess we'll have to find out." Ngozi moved to stand beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "Because I'm not going anywhere. Not when she needs me." "And if I need you?" The question was so quiet she almost missed it. "Then you'll have to learn to ask." She looked at him directly. This man who'd ignored her existence for 6 months. "My father sold me to you like property, but I'm not your possession, Kang Ji-hoon. I'm Ngozi. I'm a person. And if you want me to stay, you're going to have to see me the way I see Min-seo. As someone worth fighting for." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'm looking now," and when Ngozi met his gaze, she found him staring at her like he was seeing her for the first time. This Nigerian woman covered in his daughter's blood, fierce and exhausted and unbreakable. The ghost he'd tried to ignore. The woman who'd saved the only thing he had left to love. "Don't stop," she whispered. "I won't." Min-seo stirred in her sleep, reaching out blindly. Both Ngozi and Ji-hoon moved at the same time, their hands tangling together as they each took one of her small fingers. The child sighed, content, holding them both. And for the first time in 6 months, Ngozi felt like maybe, just maybe, this cold mansion might someday feel like home. Character count, 11-47. Min-seo refused to let Ngozi out of her sight. The hospital stay lasted 3 days, and the child clung to Ngozi through every moment, through blood draws and medication changes, and the rotating shifts of nurses who cooed over how sweet she was. Min-seo's small hand stayed locked around Ngozi's fingers, even in sleep, as if terrified that letting go meant losing her forever. Ji-hoon watched it all with unreadable eyes. He'd moved into Min-seo's hospital room, commandeering the corner chair like a king claiming territory. His phone rang constantly, business that couldn't wait, emergencies that demanded his attention. But for the first time in 5 years, he didn't leave. He stayed, silent and watchful and present in a way that made Ngozi's skin prickle with awareness. She caught him staring sometimes, not at Min-seo, but at her. His dark gaze would track the way she braided Min-seo's hair, the gentle Igbo lullabies she sang, the easy competence with which she managed medication schedules and doctor consultations. He studied her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve, a threat he couldn't neutralize. It should have made her uncomfortable. Instead, it made her bold. "You can help, you know," she said on the second day, while coaxing Min-seo to eat applesauce. "She's your daughter." "I don't know how." The admission surprised her. Kang Ji-hoon, the Reaper of Seoul, the man who controlled half the organized crime in Korea, didn't know how to feed a 5-year-old. It's not complicated. Ngozi held out the spoon. You just do it. He took the spoon like it was a weapon he didn't trust. Minseo watched him with huge eyes, equal parts hopeful and terrified. The tension in the room was suffocating. Open up, Minseo-ya, Ji-hoon said awkwardly. The child opened her mouth. He fed her one spoonful, then another. Something in his expression cracked when she smiled at him, applesauce on her lips, looking at him like he'd hung the moon. Good? He asked. Good, Appa. Ngozi saw the moment it hit him. The weight of 5 years of absence, of love withheld, of a childhood he could never give back. His hand trembled slightly as he set down the spoon. I need air, he muttered, standing abruptly and walking out. Minseo's face fell. Did I make him angry? No, baby. Ngozi pulled her close. You made him feel something, and that's scarier for him than any enemy he's ever fought. When they finally came home from the hospital, the mansion felt different. Or maybe Ji-hoon was different. He didn't disappear to his office. He didn't leave for days without explanation. Instead, he lingered, in doorways, in hallways, watching Ngozi and Minseo with that same intense focus that made her heart race for reasons she didn't want to examine. Minseo's recovery became a strange dance of proximity. The child refused to sleep alone, so Ngozi moved into her room. But Minseo also wanted her father, needed proof that he wouldn't disappear again, so Ji-hoon started joining them for dinner, then breakfast. Then the afternoon hours when Minseo insisted on teaching him how to play with her toys. Ngozi watched this dangerous man sit cross-legged on a pink carpet, holding a teddy bear, looking utterly lost while his daughter explained the rules of her imaginary tea party. It should have been ridiculous. Instead, it was devastating. You're supposed to drink the tea, Appa, Minseo instructed seriously. Ji-hoon mimed drinking from a tiny plastic cup. Delicious. Now tell Ngozi Emo her cookies are good. He looked at Ngozi, and she felt the weight of his attention like a physical touch. The cookies are good. They're imaginary, she pointed out, fighting a smile. Then they're imaginarily excellent. Minseo giggled, and the sound was so pure, so joyful, that both adults froze. When was the last time this child had laughed like that? When was the last time this house had held anything but grief and silence? Again, Minseo demanded. Be silly again. I don't do silly, Ji-hoon said seriously, which only made her laugh harder. Ngozi found herself smiling despite everything, despite the arranged marriage, despite 6 months of being invisible, despite not knowing if any of this was real or just temporary kindness born from guilt. Later that night, after Minseo had fallen asleep between them during a movie, Ji-hoon carried her to bed with a gentleness that made Ngozi's throat tight. She followed, watching as he tucked the blankets around his daughter with unpracticed but earnest care. You're getting better at this, Ngozi whispered. At what? Being her father. He was quiet for a long moment, his hand resting on Minseo's small head. I wasted 5 years. You can't get them back, but you have now. Do I? He turned to face her in the dim light of Minseo's nightlight. Or is this temporary? You fulfilling some duty until you can leave? The question caught her off guard. Why would I leave? Because I bought you. Because your father sold you like property. His voice was flat, brutal in its honesty. Because you have every reason to hate me and no reason to stay. Ngozi thought about those first 6 months. The loneliness, the invisibility, the slow death of hoping someone might see her as human. She should hate him. She should want to run the moment Minseo was well enough. But somewhere in the past week, something had shifted. She'd seen him broken at his daughter's bedside. She'd watched him try and fail and try again to be the father Minseo needed. She'd glimpsed the man underneath the monster, and God help her, she wanted to know him. I'm not leaving, she said. Not while she needs me. And when she doesn't, then I'll decide. She met his gaze directly. But I'm not your property, Ji-hoon. I'm choosing to stay. There's a difference. I know. He stepped closer, and she could smell his expensive cologne, see the exhaustion in his eyes. I'm sorry. For how I treated you. For making you invisible. I'm not invisible anymore. No. His voice dropped lower. You're not. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Ngozi knew she should step back, maintain distance, protect herself from whatever this was becoming. But she stayed frozen, watching something dark and hungry move through his expression. Ngozi. The way he said her name, finally said her name, made her shiver. I need you to know something. What? I'm not a good man. I've done things. He stopped, jaw clenching. Things you can't imagine. Things that would make you run if you knew. I know what you are. She'd heard the whispers from staff. The Reaper. The Butcher of Gangnam. The man who solved problems with violence and blood. And you're not afraid? I'm terrified. She forced herself to be honest. But not of you. Of this. Of what happens if I let myself care about you, and you go back to being the man who looked through me like I was nothing. Something cracked in his carefully controlled expression. I see you now. I can't unsee you. Promise me. The words came out desperate. Promise me if I stay, if I try. You won't disappear again, I promise. He raised his hand slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed his fingers against her cheek. The touch was electric. I'm done running from the people He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. The people you what? The people I need. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was the first honest thing he'd given her, and Ngozi took it like a gift. The next 2 weeks fell into a strange new rhythm. Ji-hoon still left for work, but he came home for dinner. He still took calls at all hours, but he'd pause to kiss Min-seo's forehead before disappearing into his office. And he watched Ngozi constantly, with an intensity that made her hyper-aware of every movement, every breath. She started teaching Min-seo to cook Nigerian food, proper cooking, the way her grandmother had taught her in Lagos. The kitchen became their sanctuary, filled with the scent of peppers and onions and palm oil, with Min-seo's laughter and Ngozi's patient instructions in Igbo. Ji-hoon found them there one afternoon, flour everywhere, Min-seo covered in dough, Ngozi demonstrating how to fold a kara. What are you making? He asked from the doorway. Black-eyed pea fritters, Ngozi explained. Min-seo wanted to learn. They're Nigerian, Min-seo added proudly. Like Ngozi Imo. He moved closer, watching Ngozi's hands shape the mixture with practiced ease. Can I try? Both Ngozi and Min-seo stared at him. Kang Ji-hoon, asking to cook? You'll get messy, Ngozi warned. I'll survive. So she taught him, guiding his hands through the motions, hyper-aware of how close he was standing, how his expensive suit was getting dusted with flour, how he was trying so hard to do this right. Min-seo supervised with serious concentration, occasionally adding helpful commentary that was mostly just giggles. When the akara were finally done, golden and perfect, Min-seo insisted they all eat together. They sat at the kitchen island, not the formal dining room, just the three of them in the warm, messy heart of the house, and ate food made with their own hands. It's good, Ji-hoon said, surprised. Don't sound so shocked, Ngozi teased. I've been feeding you for months. You just never noticed. I'm noticing now. The way he looked at her when he said it made heat bloom in her chest. This was dangerous territory. She was falling for him, for this complicated, violent man who was trying so hard to be better, and she didn't know if she could stop. That night, after Min-seo was asleep, Ngozi found Ji-hoon in his office, surrounded by papers and the glow of multiple monitors. He looked up when she entered, surprise flickering across his face. You should rest, he said. So should you. She perched on the edge of his desk. It's past midnight. I have work. You always have work. She studied him, the sharp lines of his face, the exhaustion he tried to hide, the loneliness he wore like armor. When do you rest? I don't. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving hers. Rest is for people who can afford vulnerability. And you can't? In my world, vulnerability gets you killed. Ngozi thought about that. About living every moment ready for attack. About never letting anyone close enough to matter. That sounds exhausting. It is. Then why not stop? Because I don't know how. His admission was raw. This is all I know. Violence, control, power. I built an empire on it. You could build something else. Like what? Like a family. She gestured toward Min-seo's room. Like something worth protecting instead of something worth killing for. He was quiet for a long moment, studying her with those dark, dangerous eyes. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, but it's possible. Is it? He stood, moving around the desk until he was close enough to touch. Do you really think someone like me can be redeemed? I think you're already trying. Ngozi's heart hammered. I see you with Min-seo. The way you're learning to be her father. The way I'm what? The way you're looking at me right now. The words came out breathless. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone. And how am I looking at you? Like you see me. Like I matter. I do see you, Ngozi. His voice dropped to something dark and hungry. I see everything. The way you love my daughter. The way you've made this cold house feel like a home. The way you're not afraid of me even though you should be. Should I be afraid? Terrified. His thumb traced her lower lip, and she felt the touch everywhere. I'm not a good man. I told you that. I've killed people. Destroyed lives. I'm exactly the monster everyone says I am. Then why am I not running? I don't know. His forehead rested against hers. But God, I'm grateful you're not. They stood like that, breathing the same air, balanced on the edge of something that could destroy them both. Ngozi knew she should pull away, protect her heart, remember that he'd bought her like property 6 months ago. But she also remembered him holding Minseo in the hospital, trying to make imaginary tea, covered in flour and looking lost, but trying anyway. Ji-hoon. His name on her lips felt like a confession. Don't. His hand tightened on her face. Don't say it. Not yet. Say what? Whatever you're about to say that will make me need you more than I already do. He pulled back slightly, and she saw fear in his eyes. Actual fear. I can't afford to need you, Ngozi. Needing someone makes you weak, and weakness in my world gets you killed. I know. She caught his hand before he could pull away completely. But maybe some risks are worth it. Not this one. Why not? Because I can't protect you if I need you. The confession was wrenched from somewhere deep. And I do. Need you. You saved my daughter. You're saving me. And I don't know how to keep you safe from the life I live. Before Ngozi could respond, his phone buzzed. Then again. Then it started ringing with the tone she'd learned meant emergency. Ji-hoon's entire demeanor changed instantly. The vulnerability vanished, replaced by cold calculation. He stepped back, putting professional distance between them, and answered the call. What? His voice was sharp. Ngozi watched his expression shift as he listened. Something dark and dangerous moved through his eyes. When? A pause. How many? Another pause. I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at her, and for a moment she saw the monster everyone feared. I have to go. What happened? Rival cartel hit one of my warehouses. 3 of my men are dead. He was already moving, grabbing his jacket, his gun. I need to handle this. Ji-hoon, stay here. Don't leave the house. Don't let Minseo out of your sight. He stopped at the door, looking back at her. I mean it, Ngozi. Whatever happens, don't leave this house until I come back. Will you come back? The question hung between them. Always. He said it like a vow. I promise. I'll always come back to you. Then he was gone, and Ngozi was left alone in his office, the warmth of his touch still burning on her skin, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life by letting herself care about a man who lived in darkness. Upstairs, Minseo slept peacefully, unaware that the fragile peace they'd built was already starting to crack. And in the distance, Ngozi heard the sound of cars speeding away into the Seoul night, carrying the man she was falling for toward violence she couldn't imagine. She touched her lips where his thumb had been and whispered a prayer in Igbo for his safety. Because somewhere between the hospital room and the kitchen covered in flour, between his daughter's laughter and his raw honesty, Ngozi had stopped being invisible. She'd become essential. And that, she was beginning to realize, might be the most dangerous thing of all. Character count. 10,892. Ji-hoon came back covered in blood that wasn't his. Ngozi was waiting in the foyer when he walked in at 4 a.m., her heart in her throat, relief and horror warring in her chest. He stopped when he saw her, something raw and vulnerable crossing his face before he locked it down. You should be asleep, he said. So should you. She took in the blood on his hands, his shirt, the cold emptiness in his eyes that said he'd done terrible things tonight. Are you hurt? No. The others? Handled. The single word carried the weight of violence she didn't want to imagine. They stood in silence, the space between them vast despite the physical proximity. Ngozi knew she should be horrified. She was a nurse. She'd taken an oath to preserve life, not stand beside someone who took it, but looking at Ji-hoon, exhausted and blood-stained and still standing because he had to, she felt only a desperate need to ease the burden he carried alone. Let me help you, she said quietly. You can't. I can clean you up, that's something. He hesitated, then nodded. She led him upstairs to his room, a space she'd never entered in 6 months of marriage. It was as cold and impersonal as the rest of the house, all sharp lines and expensive furniture that meant nothing. In the bathroom, she ran warm water while he stripped off his ruined shirt. His torso was a map of scars, old wounds that told stories of a violent life. She didn't ask. Instead, she wet a cloth and began cleaning the blood from his hands with the same gentle competence she'd used on Minseo. "You should be afraid of me," Ji-hoon said quietly. "I know. Then why aren't you?" Ngozi met his eyes. "Because I see what you're protecting. Not just territory or power. Your daughter. Your people. The life you're trying to build even if you don't know how. I killed 3 men tonight. I know. You should leave. Take Minseo and run before this life destroys you both. Is that what you want?" His hand caught hers, stopping her ministrations. "No. God, no. But what I want doesn't matter. This world I live in, it eats people like you alive. People like me? Good people." He said it like a curse. "You don't belong in darkness. Then bring us into the light." She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. "Stop pushing me away. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protection. I need you to be honest. About what you feel. About what this is between us. It's dangerous. I'm not afraid of dangerous." Her thumb brushed across his cheekbone. "I'm afraid of losing this before we even try." Ji-hoon closed his eyes, leaning into her touch like a man starved for gentleness. "I don't know how to do this, how to be what you need. Then we'll figure it out together." He opened his eyes, and what she saw there made her breath catch. Want, need, fear, hope. Everything he'd been denying himself, written across his face in brutal honesty. Ngozi, whatever he was about to say was interrupted by his phone ringing. He cursed, pulling away to check it. His expression went cold. "What is it?" "Get Minseo. Now. We need to move." His voice was sharp. "Urgent. My mother is coming, and she can't be trusted." Before Ngozi could ask questions, the front gate alarm sounded. Ji-hoon swore viciously in Korean, already moving. "Too late. Stay behind me. Don't say anything." They rushed downstairs just as Kang Hye-jin swept into the house like a storm. She was elegant and cruel, her expensive hanbok and perfect makeup hiding a viciousness Ngozi had only glimpsed during the wedding. The older woman looked at Ngozi with undisguised contempt. "So this is the girl you bought," Hye-jin said in Korean, her tone dripping disdain. "Her name is Ngozi," Ji-hoon replied coldly. "And she's my wife." "A wife who's made you weak." Hye-jin's eyes were sharp. "I heard about the hospital. You sitting vigil like some lovesick fool. That's not how a Kang handles family business. Minseo is my daughter. Minseo is the reason my daughter-in-law is dead." The hatred in her voice was palpable. "That child has been nothing but a curse on this family." "Enough." Ji-hoon's voice could have cut glass. "Minseo is family. Ngozi is family. If you can't accept that, you're not welcome here." Hye-jin laughed, cold and bitter. "You think you can just play house and pretend? The Choi cartel is circling. They see weakness. They see you distracted by a foreign girl and a child you suddenly care about. They're planning to move against you. Let them try." "They already have." Hye-jin pulled out her phone, showing him something that made his expression go deadly. "That warehouse hit last night? That was just the beginning." Ji-hoon read whatever was on the screen, his jaw clenching tighter with each passing second. When he looked up, murder was written across his face. "Get out of my house. This is still my house, boy. I built this empire with your father. Don't forget that." "I said get out." The standoff was interrupted by the sound of Minseo crying upstairs. Ngozi moved instinctively, but Ji-hoon caught her arm. "Stay here," he ordered, then looked at his mother with cold fury. "If you're not gone in 60 seconds, I'll have you removed by force." Hye-jin smiled, cruel and knowing. "You've already lost, my son. You just don't know it yet." She swept out as dramatically as she'd entered. The moment the door closed, Ji-hoon was moving, phone already to his ear. "Double the security. Now. I want men on every entrance, cameras everywhere, and I want—" He stopped, listening to whoever was on the other end. His face went white. "When?" Ngozi felt dread creep up her spine. "Ji-hoon?" "They took them." His voice was hollow. "The Choi cartel. They took the household staff during shift change." "What does that mean?" "It means they know our patterns. They know our weaknesses." He looked at her with something like terror. "They're coming for you and Minseo." The words had barely left his mouth when the lights went out. Everything happened fast after that. Ji-hoon shoved Ngozi toward the stairs. Get Minseo, my panic room, 3rd floor, behind the bookshelf. Code is 0328. Go, now. What about you? I'll hold them off. Go. Ngozi ran. She heard sounds downstairs. Fighting, gunfire, Ji-hoon's voice shouting orders. She burst into Minseo's room, scooped up the terrified child, and ran for the 3rd floor. But she never made it to the panic room. 3 men stepped out of the shadows. Armed, professional. One of them smiled at her with predatory interest. "Hello, Mrs. Kang," he said in English with a thick Korean accent. "You're coming with us." "Like hell I am." Ngozi clutched Minseo tighter, looking for escape routes. "We can do this easy or hard. Your choice." He raised his gun, pointing it not at her but at Minseo. But the child comes either way. Ngozi's nursing training included basic self-defense. She'd learned to handle aggressive patients in emergency rooms. But she was one woman against 3 armed men, and Minseo's life was in the balance. "Don't hurt her," she said quietly. "I'll cooperate. Just don't hurt her." The man smiled. Smart woman. They zip-tied her hands and dragged her downstairs. The house was in chaos. Ji-hoon's guards fighting, intruders everywhere. Ngozi caught a glimpse of Ji-hoon in the foyer, covered in blood again, fighting 3 men at once with brutal efficiency. Their eyes met for a split second. "Ngozi!" His roar of fury was the last thing she heard before they shoved her into a van, Minseo screaming in her arms, and drove into the night. The warehouse they took her to was cold and dark, smelling of rust and old blood. They separated her from Minseo immediately, the child's screams tearing at Ngozi's heart as they locked her in a different room. The man who'd captured them introduced himself as Choi Seung-min. He was polished and cruel, with the kind of smile that promised pain. "Mrs. Kang," he said pleasantly. "We haven't been properly introduced. I'm the man who's going to destroy your husband. He'll kill you for this." "Oh, I'm counting on him trying." Seung-min circled her like a predator. "See, Ji-hoon's weakness has always been his inability to let go. He lost his first wife, and it broke him. Now he's found something new to care about. You. That little brat. And weak men make mistakes. What do you want?" "I want him to surrender his territory, his operations, his entire empire." Seung-min pulled out his phone. "And you're going to help me convince him." He made the call on speaker. Ji-hoon answered on the first ring. "Where are they?" "Safe. For now." Seung-min's voice was all false pleasantness. "But that could change very quickly if you don't cooperate. If you touch them, you'll what? Kill me? You'd have to find me first." Seung-min gestured, and one of his men punched Ngozi in the stomach. She gasped, doubling over. The sound Ji-hoon made wasn't human. "That was just a love tap," Seung-min continued. "Next time it'll be the child. Unless you agree to my terms." "What terms?" "You have 24 hours to sign over your territory in Gangnam and Itaewon, 50% of your operations, and you publicly acknowledge me as your equal. I'll give you nothing. Then I'll send you pieces of your wife until you do." Seung-min grabbed Ngozi's hair, yanking her head back, starting with her pretty face. Ngozi heard Ji-hoon's breathing, ragged and desperate, heard him breaking in real time. "Don't," she said clearly. "Don't give him anything. Ji-hoon, don't." Seung-min backhanded her. Blood filled her mouth. 24 hours, he repeated, "or they both die screaming." He hung up. Ngozi spat blood and looked at him with pure hatred. "He won't negotiate with you. He will, because he's weak now. He cares." Seung-min smiled. "And caring makes you vulnerable." They threw her in a room with Minseo. The child was hysterical, shaking with terror. Ngozi pulled her close despite her bound hands, whispering comfort in Igbo and Korean, trying to be strong when she felt like falling apart. "Ngozi imo," Minseo sobbed. "I want Appa." "I know, baby. I know. He's coming." "How do you know?" "Because he loves you, and he won't let anyone hurt us." Even as she said it, Ngozi wondered if it was true. Ji-hoon had spent 5 years not caring about Minseo. 2 weeks of trying to be a father didn't undo that damage. And her? They'd barely started whatever this was between them. Would he really risk his empire for a wife he'd bought and a daughter he'd rejected? Hours passed in cold darkness. Minseo cried herself to sleep in Ngozi's arms. And Ngozi, for the first time since the hospital, let herself be afraid. She'd saved Minseo once with her nursing skills, but she had no weapons here. No tools, no way to protect them from armed men who saw them as nothing but leverage. All she had was hope that Ji-hoon would come. And hope felt fragile as glass. Somewhere in the depths of the warehouse she heard screaming. then gunfire. Then a sound that made her blood run cold. Ji-hoon's voice, roaring her name with a fury that shook the walls. The door to their room exploded inward. Ji-hoon stood in the doorway, covered in blood from head to toe, holding a gun in one hand and a knife in the other. His eyes were wild, inhuman, the monster fully unleashed. Behind him, Ngozi could see bodies. So many bodies. He'd come alone, and he'd carved through Sungmin's men like they were nothing. Ji-hoon, she breathed. He crossed the room in 2 strides, dropping his weapons to cup her face with shaking, bloody hands. Are you hurt? We're okay. Minseo's okay. We're both okay. He pulled them both into his arms, crushing them against his chest. Ngozi felt him shaking, felt the terror radiating off him in waves. I thought I lost you, he whispered. I thought, we're here. We're safe. He pulled back enough to look at her face, his thumb brushing the split in her lip where Sungmin had hit her. Something murderous moved through his expression. Who did this? It doesn't matter. Get us out of here. It matters. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her bloody lip with a gentleness that contradicted the violence he'd just committed. It matters because I'm going to kill every single person who touched you. Minseo stirred against Ngozi's chest. Appa? I'm here, baby girl. I'm here. He gathered them both up, ignoring the pain he had to be feeling from whatever injuries he'd sustained. I'm getting you out of here. But as they reached the door, Sungmin appeared, gun raised. How touching, he sneered, the Reaper reduced to a lovesick fool. Ji-hoon moved faster than Ngozi could track, shoving her and Minseo behind him, his own gun already aimed. Last words? Ji-hoon asked coldly. You'll never be safe, not while you care about them. Someone will always use them against you. Then I'll kill everyone who tries. He pulled the trigger. Sungmin fell. In the aftermath, sirens approached. Ji-hoon's men flooded the warehouse, securing the scene. And Ngozi sat with Minseo in her arms, watching her husband methodically execute the men who'd taken them, and wondered what it meant that she didn't feel horror. She felt only relief, because he'd come for them. He'd destroyed an entire operation single-handedly because they mattered. They mattered. Later, in the car speeding back to the mansion, Minseo finally asked, Appa, why did those bad men take us? Ji-hoon looked at his daughter with devastating honesty. Because I love you. And people who want to hurt me will use the people I love to do it. Do you love Ngozi Imo too? He looked at Ngozi, and she saw everything written in his eyes. Terror, relief, need, love. Yes, he said simply. I do. Minseo smiled through her tears. Good. Because I love her too. She's my mommy now. The words broke something in both of them. Ngozi couldn't breathe around the emotion in her chest. And Ji-hoon looked like a man who'd been given something precious and terrifying. Then I guess that makes us a family, he said quietly. Promise you won't let the bad men take us again? I promise. He pulled them both close. I'll burn the world down before I let anyone hurt you. It should have scared her, that vow, the violence implicit in it, the darkness. Instead, Ngozi felt safe for the first time since her father had sold her, because Kang Ji-hoon might be a monster, but he was their monster. And he loved them enough to destroy anyone who threatened that. Character count, 11,138. The mansion felt different after the kidnapping. Safer, but somehow more fragile. Like they were all pretending the world hadn't tried to rip them apart 3 days ago. Minseo wouldn't sleep alone. She'd wedged herself between Ngozi and Ji-hoon in the master bedroom. A room Ngozi had never been invited into before, but now occupied by unspoken agreement. The child's small hand gripped Ji-hoon's shirt even in sleep. Terrified he'd disappear if she let go. Ji-hoon hadn't left the house since bringing them home. His phone rang constantly with business that needed handling, but he ignored it all, focused entirely on his daughter and the woman he'd almost lost. Ngozi watched him struggle with it. The fear, the guilt, the overwhelming need to keep them close. He checked the locks obsessively, tripled the security, hired new guards after executing the ones who'd failed to protect them. The violence in his eyes hadn't faded. It had just found a new focus. Protecting them. You can't stay home forever, Ngozi said quietly on the 4th day, while Minseo napped between them. Watch me. Ji-hoon. They took you. His voice was raw. I spent 4 hours thinking you were dead. Thinking Minseo was dead. Knowing it was my fault because I'm what I am. It's not your fault. It is. He looked at her with haunted eyes. Sungmin was right. Caring about you makes you targets. And I can't. His voice broke. I can't lose you. Either of you. Ngozi reached across their sleeping daughter to take his hand. Then don't. It's not that simple. Why not? Because my world doesn't allow for love. He said it like a confession. Everyone I've ever cared about either died or betrayed me. My father, my wife, even my mother. She'd sell me out for power if the price was right. Love is a weakness in my world, a weapon people use against you. Is that why you pushed Minseo away? Why you tried to ignore me? Yes. The admission seemed to cost him. I thought if I didn't love her, if I didn't let you matter, we'd all be safer. She could grow up without a target on her back. You could find a way to leave and have a real life somewhere. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He laughed, the sound broken. Probably. Minseo has been dying for your love since she was born. And me? Ngozi squeezed his hand. I don't want a life somewhere else. I want this. You, her, us. Even knowing what I am? What I've done? I know you killed 12 men to save us. I know you'd kill 100 more without hesitation. She met his gaze directly. And I know you make a Kara with your daughter, and you're trying so hard to be better than the monster everyone says you are. What if the monster is all I am? Then I guess I'm in love with a monster. The words hung between them, naked and terrifying. Ji-hoon stared at her like she'd shot him. You can't mean that. I do. Ngozi, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. She shifted closer, careful not to wake Minseo. I understand that you bought me like property, and then tried to make yourself invisible so you wouldn't hurt me. I understand that you rejected your daughter because you were too broken to love her without breaking more. I understand that you're terrified of this. Of us. Because everyone you've ever loved has left you. Then why would you? Because I see you. She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. Not the Reaper. Not the monster. You. The man who sits up all night watching his daughter sleep because he's afraid she'll stop breathing. The man who's learning to cook Nigerian food because it makes me smile. The man who destroyed an entire operation single-handedly because someone hurt his family. That's not love. That's obsession. Maybe it's both. Ngozi stroked his cheek, feeling the stubble there, the exhaustion. But I'll take it. All of it. The good and the terrible and everything in between. Ji-hoon closed his eyes, leaning into her touch like a man dying of thirst. I don't know how to do this, how to be what you need. You're already what I need. I'll disappoint you, probably. I'll make mistakes, definitely. I might get you killed. Then you'll burn the world down trying to save me. She smiled softly. I heard your promise, remember? You said you'd destroy anyone who hurt us. I meant it. I know. She leaned closer, her lips almost touching his. So stop trying to push me away and just let me in. He opened his eyes, and what she saw there stole her breath. Raw need, desperate hope, love so intense it hurt to witness. Ngozi, her name on his lips was a prayer. Minseo stirred between them, mumbling in her sleep. They both froze, but she just rolled over, still deep in dreams. Ji-hoon looked at his daughter, then back at Ngozi. I can't do this here. Come with me. He carefully extracted himself from the bed, checking that Minseo was still sleeping. Then he took Ngozi's hand and led her to his office, the room where they'd almost kissed before his world had exploded into violence. The moment the door closed, he had her against it, his hands framing her face, his body pressed to hers. I need you to understand something, he said, his voice rough. I'm not good at this. At feelings. At saying what I mean instead of just acting. Then act. If I start, I won't stop. I've been holding back for weeks, trying to be respectful, trying to give you space. But after almost losing you, his forehead pressed against hers. I can't hold back anymore. Then don't. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was 6 months of denial and 2 weeks of desperate wanting and 4 hours of thinking she was dead, all compressed into one searing moment of need. His mouth claimed hers with an intensity that made her knees weak, and when she gasped, he deepened the kiss, swallowing her breath like he was trying to consume her. Ngozi kissed him back just as fiercely, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. This was what she'd wanted since that night in his office, since maybe the first moment he'd actually looked at her in the hospital. This beautiful, broken man, finally letting himself feel something. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-hoon rested his forehead against hers. You're mine, he said. And it wasn't a question. Yes, I won't share you. I won't let you go. I'm not a good man, Ngozi, but I'll be good to you. I swear it. I know. And Minseo is my daughter too. I chose her the moment I found her stealing bread in the kitchen. I'm not going anywhere. Something cracked in his expression. How did I get this lucky? You saved a 5-year-old's life by finally showing up. She smiled against his mouth. That's pretty good karma. He kissed her again, softer this time, like he was memorizing the taste of her. When he pulled back, his dark eyes were serious. I need to tell you something about that night, when my first wife died. Ngozi tensed. You don't have to. I do. You deserve to know why I'm so broken. He stepped back, putting space between them, and she could see the pain etched into every line of his face. Her name was Yoonji. We'd been together since we were teenagers. She was everything, light in a dark world. And when she got pregnant, I thought maybe I could be something other than a monster. Ji-hoon, let me finish. His hands clenched. The pregnancy was difficult, high risk. The doctors warned us. But she wanted the baby, wanted to give me a family. And when the complications started during delivery, when they said they could only save one of them, she chose Minseo. Tears burned in Ngozi's eyes. She died begging me to save our daughter, to love her, to be a better father than my father was. Ji-hoon's voice broke, and I couldn't. Every time I looked at Minseo, I saw Yoonji bleeding out. I saw the choice I didn't get to make. I saw the only good thing in my life dying because of my daughter. That's not fair to Minseo. I know. He looked at her with devastating honesty. I know it's not fair. I know it's not her fault, but I couldn't separate the two. So I pushed her away, told myself she was better off without me, that she didn't need a monster for a father. And your arranged marriage to me was my mother's idea. She said the family needed an heir, that Minseo needed a mother. I didn't care either way. I figured you'd stay in your wing. I'd stay in mine. We'd coexist without touching. He laughed bitterly. I didn't expect you to be... you? What does that mean? Kind, strong, unafraid of me. He crossed back to her, cupping her face with shaking hands. I didn't expect to watch you love my daughter and feel something crack open in my chest. I didn't expect to need you. And now? Now I can't imagine my life without you in it. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. You saved Minseo, and you saved me, and I love you for it. I love you so much it terrifies me. Ngozi felt tears spill over. Say it again. I love you, Ngozi Okafor, my wife, my salvation, mine. She pulled him down and kissed him, tasting salt and hope, and the promise of something beautiful built from broken pieces. When they finally broke apart, Ji-hoon held her close, his face buried in her neck. I don't know how to be a good husband, he admitted, or a good father. But I'll try. For you. For her. I'll try to be more than what I am. You already are. Ngozi ran her fingers through his hair. You're trying. That's all I need. They stood like that for a long moment, just breathing together, finding peace in each other's arms. We should get back to Minseo, Ngozi said eventually. She'll panic if she wakes up alone. In a minute. He tightened his arms around her. Just let me hold you. Let me know this is real. It's real. Promise me you won't leave, no matter what happens, no matter how dark it gets. I promise. She pulled back to look at him. But you have to promise me something too. Anything. Stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. If there's danger, we face it together, as a family. He hesitated, and she could see the war in his eyes, his protective instincts versus his promise to let her in. Together, he finally agreed, even when it terrifies me, especially then. He kissed her again, slow and deep and full of promises they'd spend a lifetime keeping. But as they returned to the bedroom where Minseo slept, neither of them saw the security footage being transmitted to a server across the city. Neither of them knew that someone was watching, planning, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, because Kang Hye-jin wasn't done destroying her son's happiness, and the real threat to their fragile family wasn't rival cartels or kidnapping attempts. It was blood, family, betrayal from the inside. And it was coming. Character count, 10,514. The truth came from the most unexpected source, Minseo. It was 2 weeks after the kidnapping, and the child had finally started sleeping through the night again. She'd been drawing pictures all morning. Her new therapist said it helped process trauma, and she brought one to show Ngozi in the kitchen. Look, Ngozi Emo. It's Grandma. Ngozi looked at the drawing and felt ice slide down her spine. Minseo had drawn Kang Hye-jin talking to the men who'd taken them. The child had drawn it in careful detail, her grandmother's distinctive hanbok, the scar on one captor's face, even the warehouse they'd been held in. Baby, Ngozi said carefully, keeping her voice calm. When did you see Grandma talking to these men? Before they took us. She came to visit and I was hiding because I don't like her. She was in Appa's office with the bad men. Mincio looked up with innocent eyes. Was that a secret? Ngozi felt her world tilt. Where's your Appa? His office. She found Ji-hoon on a call, already stressed, and held up the drawing. His expression went from confusion to understanding, to murderous rage in the space of a heartbeat. He ended the call without explanation. When did she draw this? Just now. She says she saw your mother with Sungmin's men, before the kidnapping. Ji-hoon stared at the drawing and Ngozi watched something fundamental break in him. My own mother. You don't know for certain. I know. His voice was dead. It makes too much sense. She knew our security protocols. She knew the shift changes. She had access to everything. He looked up, and his eyes were empty. She gave them my family. What are you going to do? What I should have done years ago. He stood, already moving. I'm ending this. Ji-hoon. Wait. But he was already calling his security team, issuing orders in rapid Korean that Ngozi only partially understood. She caught enough. Find her. Bring her here. Don't let her run. 20 minutes later, Kang Hye-jin was dragged into the mansion by two of Ji-hoon's men. She looked furious but not surprised, which told Ngozi everything she needed to know. How dare you? Hye-jin spat. I'm your mother. You're a traitor. Ji-hoon's voice could have cut glass. You conspired with the Choi cartel to have my wife and daughter kidnapped. I was trying to save you from your own weakness. By putting them in danger? By making you remember who you are. Hye-jin's eyes blazed. You're the Reaper, the butcher of Gangnam. Not some lovesick fool playing house with a foreign bride and the mistake that killed your wife. Ngozi saw Ji-hoon's hand move to his gun. Don't talk about my daughter. That thing is not your daughter. She's a curse. She killed Yoonji. She's made you weak. And now this Nigerian woman has completely destroyed you. Hye-jin's lip curled. You've become everything your father despised. My father was a monster who sold me to his enemies when I was 8 years old to clear a debt. Ji-hoon's voice was deadly calm. If I've become everything he despised, then I've done something right. You don't understand. The empire we built. You built it on my blood. On my childhood. On my pain. He took a step closer, and Ngozi saw the monster fully unleashed. And now you tried to take away the only good things I have. My daughter. My wife. The family I'm trying to build. They're making you weak. They're making me human. He pulled out his gun, and Hye-jin finally showed fear. And you can't stand that, can you? Because if I'm human, I might realize that everything you taught me was a lie. Hye-jin's expression turned calculating. If you kill me, you'll start a war. I have allies. People who'll come for you. Let them come. Ji-hoon chambered around. I've burned down empires for less. Ji-hoon? Ngozi stepped forward, touching his arm. Don't do this. She tried to have you killed. I know, but if you kill her in cold blood, in front of Minseo, you'll never forgive yourself. Minseo isn't here. But I am. Ngozi moved between him and his mother. And I'm asking you not to do this. Not like this. She deserves to die. Maybe. But you deserve better than becoming the monster she raised you to be. Ji-hoon's hand shook. Ngozi could see the war raging inside him, the trained killer versus the man trying to be better. What do you want me to do? His voice cracked. She betrayed us. She put you in danger. She's still your mother. Ngozi cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. And killing her solves nothing. It just proves her right about you. Then what? Let her go. Cut her off completely. Show her that you choose us over empire, over revenge, over everything she taught you mattered. Ji-hoon looked at his mother with something like grief. You really hate me that much? I don't hate you. For the first time, Hye-jin's voice wavered. I'm trying to protect you. This world doesn't allow for love. It'll destroy you. Then I'll burn it down and build something new. He lowered the gun. Hye-jin looked shocked. Get out, Ji-hoon said quietly. Take whatever you want from your room. But you're never coming back here. You're never seeing Minseo again. And if you ever come near my wife, I won't be merciful a second time. Ji-hoon, I said get out. His mother left, escorted by guards, and Ji-hoon stood in the ruins of his family, shaking. Ngozi pulled him into her arms and let him break. I can't do this, he whispered against her shoulder. I can't keep fighting everyone. My mother, the cartels, my own past. You're not fighting alone anymore. What if I can't protect you? What if... His phone rang, the emergency tone. He answered, and Ngozi watched his face go white. When? A pause. How many? Another pause. I'm on my way. What happened? The Choi cartel's allies, they're moving against all my operations. Coordinated attacks across the city. He looked at her with devastation. My mother must have told them I was weakened. They're coming for everything. Then fight back. If I do this, if I go to war, people will die. Innocent people. My people. And if you don't, they'll take everything. And then they'll come here. For you. For Minseo. Ngozi understood the impossible choice he was facing. Fight and become the monster. Don't fight and lose everything. What do you need from me? She asked. I need you to take Minseo and leave. Tonight. I'll have my men take you somewhere safe while I handle this. Absolutely not. Ngozi, we're a family. Remember? Together. That was the promise. This isn't a negotiation. I can't protect you if I'm fighting a war. Then end the war quickly. She grabbed his face, making him look at her. Do whatever you have to do. Be whoever you have to be. I know what you are, Ji-hoon. I've always known, and I'm not afraid. You should be. Too late. She kissed him hard. Now go. Protect our family. Protect our future. And come back to us. He pulled her close, breathing her in like she was oxygen. If I don't make it back, you will. But if I don't, I need you to know. These past 2 months with you and Minseo have been the only time in my life I've felt human. You gave me that, and I love you for it. I love you too. Now go be the Reaper everyone's afraid of. He kissed her one last time, then he was gone, taking half of his security force with him. Ngozi stood in the empty foyer, listening to the sound of cars speeding away, and prayed in Igbo for his safety. Then she went to find Minseo, because if Ji-hoon fell tonight, she'd need to protect his daughter. The attack came at midnight, not against Ji-hoon's operations, against the mansion. Ngozi was reading to Minseo when the alarms went off. The remaining guards shouted warnings, and suddenly men were pouring through windows and doors, overwhelming the defenses. Run! One of Ji-hoon's loyal men shouted before he was shot. Ngozi grabbed Minseo and ran for the panic room. 3rd floor, behind the bookshelf, code 0328. They almost made it, but one of the attackers caught them on the stairs. Park Tae-woo, Ji-hoon's trusted driver. His face was cold, apologetic. I'm sorry, Mrs. Kang, he said, but they're paying more than your husband ever did. He raised his gun, and Ngozi understood with terrible clarity that this was how she died. Betrayed by someone they'd trusted, shot trying to protect Minseo. She turned her body to shield the child, closing her eyes, waiting for the bullet. It didn't come. Instead, she heard gunfire. Different weapons. And when she opened her eyes, Tae-woo was on the ground, bleeding out, and Ji-hoon was standing in the hallway, covered in blood and ash, fury incarnate. Are you hurt? His voice was barely human. No, we're okay. Good. He looked past her at the bodies of his attackers. Stay here. I'm clearing the house. Ji-hoon! But he was already moving, killing with brutal efficiency, eliminating every threat. Ngozi held Minseo close, covering the child's eyes, listening to sounds that would haunt her nightmares. When the mansion fell silent, Ji-hoon came back. He was painted in other people's blood, his eyes empty, a monster wearing her husband's face. It's done, he said flatly. They're all dead. Every single person who came after you. And the others? The war? Finished. I killed them all. He swayed slightly, and Ngozi realized he was running on nothing but adrenaline and fury. Every ally of the Choi cartel, every traitor, everyone who thought they could take what's mine. Ji-hoon, you need to sit down. I need to make sure you're safe. We are safe, because of you. She moved to him carefully, like approaching a wild animal. But you're hurt. Let me help you. He let her lead him to the bathroom, strip away his ruined clothes, clean the blood and reveal the wounds underneath. He'd been shot twice, stabbed once, and had burns across his back. He should have been dead. How are you standing? She asked, horrified. I can't die yet. You need me. The simple statement broke her. This man had fought his way across Seoul, destroyed an entire cartel, then come home and eliminated every threat to his family, all while critically injured, because he loved them. I need you alive, she corrected, her hands shaking as she bandaged him. Not dead on your feet. I will be, as long as you're here. After she'd patched him up as best she could, she helped him to bed. Minseo was already asleep there, exhausted from terror. Ji-hoon collapsed beside his daughter, and Ngozi lay on his other side. Is it over? She whispered. For now. His voice was fading. But there will always be someone new. Someone who wants to take what I have. Use you against me. Then we'll handle them. Together. I'm so tired, Ngozi. I know, baby. Rest. What if I can't protect you next time? You will. She kissed his forehead. You always do. He fell asleep with his arms around both of them, holding on like they might disappear. And Ngozi lay awake, watching the man she loved sleep the exhausted sleep of warriors, and wondered how long they could survive in this violent world, because tonight had proven something terrible. As long as Ji-hoon had power, they'd be targets. As long as he had enemies, they'd never be safe. As long as he was the Reaper, they'd live in constant danger. The question was, could she live with that? Could she love a man whose very existence put them in harm's way? Looking at Minseo sleeping peacefully, at Ji-hoon's ravaged body that had fought through hell to protect them, Ngozi knew the answer. Yes, she could. She would. Because he was theirs. And they were his. And love, she was learning, meant choosing each other even when it was dangerous. Especially when it was dangerous. Character count. 10,765. Ji-hoon woke to sunlight and silence. For a moment he didn't remember where he was. Then Minseo shifted against his side, her small hand clutching his shirt, and reality crashed back. The mansion, the attack, the blood. He'd killed 17 men last night. Ngozi was sitting in the chair by the window, watching him with concerned eyes. She looked exhausted, beautiful, alive. How long was I out? His voice was rough. 14 hours. The doctor came. You have 2 broken ribs, a concussion, and you're lucky the bullet missed your lung by 2 centimeters. But you're safe. We're safe. She moved to the bed, checking his bandages with professional efficiency. But this can't keep happening, Ji-hoon. Eventually you won't be fast enough or strong enough and, I know. He caught her hand. I've been thinking. About? Leaving. All of it. The empire. The violence. This life. Ngozi stared at him. You can't just walk away from the Korean Mafia. I can. I built this empire from nothing. I can dismantle it just as easily. He pulled her down to sit beside him. Or hand it over to someone I trust and disappear. They'll come after you. Not if I'm worthless to them. Not if I have nothing they want. He looked at Minseo, still sleeping peacefully. I spent 5 years pushing her away because I was afraid of loving her. I'm not wasting any more time being the monster everyone expects. What are you saying? I'm saying I choose you. Both of you. Over power, over empire, over everything. He cupped her face. I want out, Ngozi. I want a life where Minseo can go to school without bodyguards. Where you can walk outside without fear. Where I'm just a man. A husband. A father. That's a beautiful dream. It doesn't have to be just a dream. His dark eyes were serious. Come with me. Leave Korea. Start over somewhere new. Where? Anywhere. Everywhere. He smiled slightly. Where do you want to go? Ngozi thought about it. Really thought about it. Where could they be safe? Where could they start over? Lagos, she said finally. Nigeria. My home. Then Lagos it is. The next 2 weeks were a controlled demolition of everything Ji-hoon had built. He called in every favor, settled every debt, and methodically transferred his operations to trusted lieutenants with one condition. His family was off limits. Forever. Anyone who came after them would face the combined wrath of every organization he'd ever allied with. Ngozi watched him work with ruthless efficiency, burning his old life to the ground to build something new. You're sure about this? She asked on their last night in the mansion. I've never been more sure of anything. He pulled her into his arms. I can't promise it'll be easy. I can't promise I won't miss the power sometimes. But I can promise I'll never regret choosing you. What about Minseo? She's Korean. Taking her to Nigeria. She's our daughter. Home is wherever we are. He kissed her forehead. Besides, she's been asking when she can meet your family. She wants to know where Akara comes from. Ngozi laughed despite her tears. My mother is going to lose her mind when I show up with a husband and a daughter. Will she accept us? She will once I explain that you're completely obsessed with me and willing to give up everything to make me happy. Is that what I'm doing? Isn't it? He smiled, and it transformed his entire face, made him look younger, lighter, free. Yeah, I guess it is. They flew to Lagos 2 days later, leaving behind the mansion and the memories and the violence. Minseo pressed her face to the airplane window, watching Seoul disappear beneath the clouds. "Will we ever come back?" she asked. "Maybe," Ji-hoon said. "When it's safe. When you're older and want to see where you came from. But Nigeria is home now? Home is wherever we're together." Minseo seemed to accept that, curling up against Ngozi with the easy trust of a child who knew she was loved. Ji-hoon watched them both, his wife and his daughter, and felt something settle in his chest. Peace. After 35 years of violence and survival, he finally had peace. Lagos hit them like a wall of heat and color and sound. Ngozi's family lived in Surulere, a bustling neighborhood where everyone knew everyone, and privacy was a foreign concept. Her mother Chinwe took one look at Ji-hoon and Minseo and burst into tears. "My daughter," she said in Igbo, pulling Ngozi into a crushing hug. "My baby girl, I thought I'd never see you again." "I'm sorry, Mama. I couldn't call. It wasn't safe. But you're here now. That's what matters." Chinwe turned to Ji-hoon, studying him with sharp eyes. "And this is the man who bought you?" "This is Ji-hoon, my husband." Ngozi switched to English. "And this is Minseo, our daughter." The transformation on Chinwe's face was immediate. She crouched down to Minseo's level. "Hello, little one. Do you speak Igbo?" "No, ma'am," Minseo said shyly. "But Ngozi Imo is teaching me." "Ngozi Imo?" Chinwe looked at Ngozi with tears in her eyes. "She calls you auntie?" "It's complicated," Ngozi said quietly. "But we're family now." Chinwe pulled them all into her house, and suddenly they were surrounded by aunties and uncles and cousins who all wanted to meet Ngozi's mysterious Korean husband and his beautiful daughter. The noise was overwhelming. The love was suffocating in the best way. Ji-hoon looked completely lost. "Too much?" Ngozi whispered. "It's perfect," he said. And she could see him drinking it all in, this chaotic, joyful family that took them in without question. This was what family was supposed to be. They stayed with Chinwe for 2 months while Ji-hoon established legitimate businesses in Lagos. Import-export, consulting, investments, ways to use his strategic mind without the violence. He was good at it. The money came easily, but more importantly, he came home every night without blood on his hands. Minseo bloomed in Lagos. She learned Igbo from Chinwe, made friends with the neighborhood children, attended a school where no one knew or cared who her father used to be. She laughed more, played more, became the child she'd never been allowed to be in Korea. Ngozi watched her husband transform too. The cold mask melted away. He smiled more easily, laughed at Chinwe's terrible jokes, learned to make jollof rice, and argued passionately that the Nigerian version was better than Ghanaian, which made Chinwe love him instantly. He was becoming human. 6 months after they arrived in Lagos, Ngozi found out she was pregnant. She told Ji-hoon in their small apartment near Chinwe's house, watching nervously as he processed the news. "Pregnant," he repeated. "Yes, about 3 months. I wanted to be sure before." He kissed her, deep and desperate and joyful. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "A baby. We're having a baby. Are you happy?" "I'm terrified and ecstatic, and..." He laughed, the sound incredulous. "I can't believe I get this. After everything I've done. After being the monster for so long. I get you, Minseo, and now a baby? You're not a monster anymore." "I was, though. I killed people, Ngozi. I know what you were." She took his hands, placing them on her still flat stomach. "But I also know what you are now. A good man, a good father, the love of my life. I don't deserve you. Too late. You're stuck with me." They told Minseo over dinner. The child's face lit up like Christmas. "A baby? Really?" "Really," Ngozi confirmed. "You're going to be a big sister." Minseo threw herself at Ji-hoon, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Appa, we're going to have a real family." The words cracked something in him. He pulled both his daughter and his wife close, and Ngozi felt him shaking. "I love you both so much," he whispered. "More than I knew I could love anything." "We love you too," Minseo said seriously. "Even when you're being silly." He laughed through his tears. "I'm silly a lot now, aren't I?" "Yes, but it's okay. Ngozi Imo likes it when you smile." Ngozi's pregnancy was easy, blessed. Chinwe fussed over her constantly, making sure she ate properly and rested enough. Ji-hoon was obsessively protective, treating her like she was made of glass. "I can still walk?" Ngozi protested when he tried to carry her up the stairs for the 3rd time that week. "I know, But I want to take care of you. You do take care of me. I want to do more. He set her down gently on their bed. I spent so long being cold and distant. Let me make up for it. You already have. Never enough. He kissed her swollen belly. I'll spend the rest of my life making up for those 6 months I ignored you. That's a long time to feel guilty. Then I guess you'll have to help me find better things to do with my time. She laughed, pulling him up to kiss him properly. I think I can manage that. Their son was born on a sticky Lagos night, with Chinwe and the neighborhood midwife coaching Ngozi through labor, while Ji-hoon held her hand and looked like he might pass out. You're doing great, he kept saying. You're so strong. I love you. You're amazing. Shut up and let me squeeze your hand, Ngozi gritted out. He did, and she nearly broke his fingers, but he never complained. When their son finally arrived, wailing and perfect, the midwife placed him on Ngozi's chest. He's beautiful, Ji-hoon breathed. He's perfect. He looks like you, Ngozi said, studying the baby's features. Poor kid. Shut up. You're gorgeous and you know it. They named him Chinedu, God leads, with Ji-hoon's family name, Kang Chinedu, a perfect blend of their two worlds. Min-seo was completely smitten with her baby brother. She helped change diapers, sang him lullabies in Igbo and Korean, appointed herself his official protector. Don't worry, Chinedu, she told the infant seriously. I won't let anyone hurt you, and if they try, Appa will go all Reaper on them. Min-seo, Ji-hoon said gently, I'm not the Reaper anymore. I know, but you could be if you needed to protect us. She looked at him with perfect trust. Right? Right. Always. 1 year after they'd arrived in Lagos, they had a traditional Igbo wedding ceremony. Chinwe planned the entire thing, inviting half of Surulere. Ngozi wore a deep purple wrapper and coral beads. Ji-hoon looked uncomfortable but determined in his traditional attire. Min-seo was the flower girl, throwing petals with abandon. Chinedu slept through the entire ceremony. When it came time for the vows, Ji-hoon spoke in halting Igbo, words he'd practiced for months. Ahuru mgi nanya, he said. I love you. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. Ahuru mgi nanya. They kissed while the entire neighborhood cheered, and Ji-hoon pulled back with a smile that was pure joy. We did it, he whispered. We made it out. We did. No regrets? Only that it took 6 months for you to see me. I see you now. I'll never stop seeing you. They danced under the stars, surrounded by family and friends, and Ji-hoon thought about the man he used to be, the Reaper, the monster, the orphan who thought he'd never deserve love. That man was dead. In his place was someone new, a husband, a father, a man who knew how to make a kara and change diapers and speak Igbo badly, but with enthusiasm. What are you thinking about? Ngozi asked as they swayed together. How different my life could have been. Better or worse? I don't know. But this? He gestured at Min-seo playing with Chinedu, at Chinwe laughing with the neighbors, at the home they'd built in Lagos. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. No going back? Never. He kissed her, slow and sweet. I spent 35 years surviving. Now I'm finally living. And if trouble finds us, if your old life comes back, then I'll handle it. But I won't go back to being what I was. His eyes were serious. I'm done being the Reaper. I'm just Ji-hoon now, your husband, their father. And that's enough. It was enough. More than enough. That night, after the celebration ended and the guests went home, Ji-hoon stood on their small balcony watching Lagos sleep. Ngozi joined him, Chinedu in her arms, Min-seo already passed out in bed. Happy? She asked, deliriously. He took his son, cradling him with the easy competence of a father who'd learned. I can't believe this is my life now. Believe it. You're stuck with us. Best prison sentence I've ever had. She laughed, leaning against him. What do you think Min-seo will want for her birthday? Probably something ridiculous like a pony. We live in an apartment in Lagos. I said it was ridiculous. Not that I wouldn't try to make it happen. You're such a pushover now. Only for my girls. And your son. And my son. He kissed Chinedu's forehead. I'm outnumbered and I love it. They stood together, a family built from broken pieces, watching the city that had given them a second chance. Somewhere in Seoul, the criminal empire Ji-hoon had built continued without him. Somewhere, people still whispered about the Reaper who'd vanished. Somewhere, his old life waited like a ghost. But here, in Lagos, in Ngozi's arms, with his children sleeping peacefully, Ji-hoon was finally free, free from violence, free from the past, free to love without fear. And that freedom, he realized, was worth more than any empire. I love you, he whispered to Ngozi. I know, she smiled. You tell me every day. I'll tell you every day for the rest of our lives. Promise? Promise. Kang Ji-hoon, former Mafia king, the Reaper of Soul, kept his promise every single day. For the rest of their beautifully ordinary, perfectly chaotic, love-filled lives,